You are welcome once again to the Internet Study Mate series. This time, we are talking about blood vessels. Blood vessels. In our previous lesson, we discussed the structure and function of the heart. And we got to know that the heart is a muscular organ that pumps blood to all other parts of the body. The heart of humans or of mammals is divided into 4 chambers. We have the left and right atria, and then the left and right ventricles. The left side is divided, or the left side is separated from the right side by a wall known as septum. Today, we are going to talk about blood vessels. Before the blood can be pumped to other parts of the body, they need to be carried or transported by certain tubes. These tubes are known as the blood vessels. So, we can say that blood vessels are tubes that transport blood to and from the heart. We have 3 main types of blood vessels. One, we have arteries. Then we have veins. Then we have the smallest division of blood vessels known as capillaries. Now let's talk about arteries. Arteries transport blood So, arteries are responsible for the distribution of blood to the cells in our body. Now the second thing we need to know, arteries usually carry oxygenated blood. Sorry. With the exception of the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery is the artery that carries blood to the lungs. The pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs for oxygenation. So, pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. When we say oxygenated blood, what we mean is that blood that has oxygen in it. So the pulmonary artery carries the blood to the lungs, which is the surface of gaseous exchange. Then oxygen is transferred or is diffuses into the blood and then is carried back to the heart through the pulmonary vein. The largest artery in the body is known as aorta. The aorta is the largest artery in the body. Now, when the arteries divide into smaller vessels, they form arteries. One thing we need to know is that because arteries carry blood from the heart, and because the heart is continuously pumping blood, blood travels within the arteries under a higher pressure compared to the veins. And if blood travels under a higher pressure, we can say the following about the arteries. Okay, so let's move to this side. Now we can say that blood travels under high pressure in arteries. The high pressure is due to the pumping of blood from the heart. Because blood travels under high pressure in arteries, we can say that arteries, or when blood is traveling through arteries, it travels in pulses. So blood travels in pulses, just like this. And because of this, to ensure that the pressure is sustained within the blood vessel or within the artery has a hole through which the blood passes. That is known as the lumen. The lumen of the artery is smaller as compared to the vein or to the veins. This principle is due to this. We know that pressure is equal to force over area. So the smaller the area, the greater the pressure. So in order to sustain the pressure so that blood can get to all the other parts of the body, the lumen of the artery is smaller as compared to the veins. And then, because blood is traveling under higher pressure in the arteries, the muscles of the arteries are very strong. They are also elastic. So we can say that the muscles are strong and then elastic. So, this is what we can say about the arteries for now. Let's move on to the veins. Now, we can say that the vein is a blood vessel that carries blood into the heart. And the veins carry deoxygenated blood. That means oxygen has been removed from the blood. Deoxygenated blood. So with the exception of the pulmonary vein. The pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from the lungs into the heart. So, what we mean here right now is that after the arteries have carried the blood into the heart, oxygen have been removed for whichever purpose for which they are needed, like respiration. Now the blood needs to come back to the heart to carry for fresh oxygen. Now, when the blood is coming back from the heart, oxygen would have been removed, and therefore the blood is deoxygenated. One other thing we need to know about the vein is that the largest vein in the body is known as the vena cava. The vena cava is the largest vein in the body. Now, when the vein divides into smaller vessels, it forms what we call venules. At this point, it is when venules and arterioles come together that they form capillaries. Let's move on. Veins do not carry blood under high pressure as arteries. As a matter of fact, if not for valves, blood that are flowing through veins could actually flow backwards. Therefore, veins carry blood under very little or no pressure let's say that. So the vein carries blood because of this. Valves, the veins have valves in their lumen to prevent the backward flow of blood. So, the vein has valves that prevent the backward flow of blood. Now, when you look at the walls of the veins, it looks like this. It has a relatively larger lumen. The veins have a relatively larger lumen because no pressure is required. It rather has valves. And the walls of the muscles are less elastic as compared to the arteries. So if we are comparing the two, this is what we are going to see. So when we compare the two, we realize that the vein has a larger lumen than the artery. And then we'll also realize that the walls of the artery are thicker and then more elastic than that the vein. Okay, at this point, let's move on to capillaries. What are blood capillaries? Okay, capillaries. Capillaries are also blood vessels, but compared to the vein and the artery, in fact, capillaries are only one cell thick. The walls of the capillaries are only one cell thick, like this, something like this. With gaps in between the cells. Capillaries are actually the point of exchange of materials in the blood with the cells. So capillaries can be found around every cell in the body. Blood capillaries, as we said, are only one cell thick, and therefore can carry or can cause exchange of blood. Sorry.